The following is read verbatim from obotomy.blogspot.com, that is post-obotomy syndrome. And the reason why I'm reading this is, first, we, the members of Q Nation, should be careful to not sacrifice the moral high ground. In other words, let's not do what our opponents do, who are always calling the opposition names, namely us. They always call us Nazis and racists and things like that. Well, that's morally wrong. That's known as bearing false witness against your neighbor. Second, in addition to not sacrificing the moral high ground, we should not sacrifice the rational high ground. We can advance subjects. We can advance arguments. We can offer evidence that one course of action is better than another course of action. We are not like the Alinskyeites who attack the person and not the subject, who believe that truth is silly putty, in effect, and it's not important. Truth just is not important to the Alinskyeites. That's not who we are. We're members of Q Nation, and what prompted this is the death of President Bush, the first Bush, George H.W. Bush, and I'm going to read it now. Rest in peace, President Bush. While I am not a fan of our 41st president, I feel the need to put his life in perspective. I am defending GHWB against the baseless criticism heaped upon him by the greatly awakened. If you assert that George Bush had anything to do with the murder of JFK, the defense rests. If you assert that George Bush's involvement in the Masons had anything to do with anything other than fraternity and schmoozing, the defense rests. If you assert that George Bush's involvement in Skull and Bones resulted in nefarious activity, the defense rests. If you assert that George Bush's globalism implicates him in human sacrifice, cannibalism, ritualistic pedophilia, and crimes so atrocious that we can never know about them, the defense rests. If you assert that the elder George Bush helped orchestrate the events of 9/11, the defense will assert that you are as stupid as Michael Moore. 41 seems to be a punching bag for members of the QAnon underground, of which I claim membership. I don't see any sharks, but I am finding myself swimming with lumpfish, blowfish, and suckerfish. Not a build attention with a lions and tigers and bears, oh my vibe. No theme from Jaws. The good, the bad, and the ugly fall short both in title and in composition. Think Waltz of the Flowers, where the audience joins in with an assortment of kazoos, bagpipes, and tubas. Q Nation. I believe that George H.W. Bush was a well-intentioned individual with whom I shared few, if any, values. His global perspective is a view I reject, but one I respect. Those of us who saw Reaganism as watered-down capitalism see Bush as watered-down Reagan. Politically, 41 was not much different from Kasich or Boehner or George II or most mainstream Republicans. Let us all chant lesser of two evils till we grow weary. Arguably, Bush brought the all-time best resume to the presidency. Successful businessman, vice president, congressman, ambassador, director of CIA, fighter pilot. No lost years in this man's biography. George and Barbara Bush lost a child early in their marriage. Personal tragedy does not assure greatness or wisdom, but it often brings with it a sensitivity to the plight of others. Empathy. This is highly subjective, but I do believe George Herbert Walker Bush cared about other people, especially those he was elected to help. I believe that his compassion went well beyond the photo op. Had he wielded a D after his name, he would have been treated much, much, much more favorably by the corrupt Fourth Estate. Bush spearheaded the global maneuver to defeat Saddam Hussein. Bush did much to restore the tarnished reputation of the U.S. military that suffered mightily following Vietnam. Bush did not use the IRS to crush political opposition. He did not use the FBI and DOJ and partisan intelligence administrators to spy on politicians. He did not spy on journalists, their families, and promote the swearing of affidavits attesting to their involvement with terrorists. There is zero evidence that he used voter fraud to get elected. He did not funnel $1.6 billion cash to nefarious forces. If this tip of the iceberg just got a little too poundstone for such a somber occasion, so be it. George Herbert Walker Bush is saintly by comparison. Oh, but there are some harsh lessons to be learned about the GOP establishment, the Bush family, and in particular, George Herbert Walker Bush. Some other time. On balance, George Herbert Walker Bush was a good man. On this, the day following his death, we should all keep that in mind. Roll the credits. Roll the credits.